Welcome back to another episode of 716 Sports Podcast. We got Steve Bermel, he's doing a great job. We got Mike Backpack, he's doing a great job. We got Jeff Boyd, he's doing a great job too. Everyone's doing a great fucking job. Welcome back, boys.
Thanks, this is really positive. This is not the mood I expected to start the show, but I appreciate it.
I was saving my last bit of energy just for that intro, just for you guys. I don't know where that came from, just did it.
It's got to roll with it. Got to roll with the vibe. Big vibe energy.
Welcome back, 716 Sports Podcast. The Bills lost. That was way too energetic of an opening for a Bills loss.
I was about to say, I thought
the
mood was way down, and then you came in firing hot.
Well, coming in hot. We got to keep the energy up here. There was a little too much energy for the caliber of loss the Bills calibered.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the silver lining would be that the Bills teams of yesteryear wouldn't have even made it to overtime. So we're progressing as an organization or something. I don't know. It's tough to find positives when you had a team that looked like the Houston Texans weren't in the same stratosphere as the Buffalo Bills for about 2.5 quarters of that football game. Everyone on Twitter was writing them off. The game was basically over. Booger McFarland, the worst commentator in professional sports, was deeming Josh Allen to be like coming out as like a true superstar, and then it all just fell apart all simultaneously on both sides of the ball, and it was tough.
The most surprising part of the game to me was after the game when Sean McDermott just came out but instead Josh Allen tried to do too much. I was like, well, he must be frustrated. You never hear him say anything. I don't think I've ever heard him say something like that before, but any of his players, he just came right out. Boom.
It doesn't feel like it's entirely correct either. Josh was leading his team 16-0. They weren't pushing it. They were settling for field goals. They were not playing aggressive. The only aggressive play, I think, of the entire game was the fake reverse pass from Brown to Allen, where he floats that ball way up there. You wondered if it's ever going to come down, and it does come down perfectly in front of Josh Allen, who takes a hit to dive into the end zone. But really, other than that, there weren't big chunk plays. They weren't really attacking downfield too much. There was a lot of Frank Gore still involved in the gameplay, and DeMarco and Lee Smith were on the field a bunch, especially in late key game situations. And together at the same time. It comes down to, at the end, the Buffalo Bills did not score a touchdown for their final 10 possessions of that game. This is an offense-first league. Forget the Super Bowl last year, because that was an outlier. This is an offense-first league. To win games, especially to win playoff games, you have to be able to take the ball and put it into the end zone. You will get burned if you settle for field goals. We saw it in the Ohio State-Clemson game the weekend before. We saw it again on Saturday. You have to be able to get the ball into the end zone. The Bills just were not capable, and I have a hard time blaming Allen by himself for it.
I feel like there are a lot of different variables to this game. There's more than just one. There's more than three. I feel like we gotta make sure we hit all of them. I think one of them is Josh Allen. When Josh Allen hit a ball in the second half, I think he did. What was it that fucking lateral he did late in the game? That was an overtime, right? Wasn't that an overtime or the fourth quarter? I think they were trying to come back in the fourth quarter.
Oh yeah, he was trying to lateral it back to Dawson Knox and threw it wherever, and then Knox was smart enough to at least knock it out of bounds.
And then the ghost fumble, he just scrambling and dropped the ball. No one touched that ball.
Yeah, they're trying to credit Merciless with the forced fumble, but he never got a hand on the ball.
Josh Allen played a really good first half. I think he played a good first half.
He had a couple dots and unfortunately did not get the results. We've said this all year. Mike and I were talking about this at the rink because we were actually calling a Buttes game during overtime. But, since the first week with that Beasley ball that was on his right hip, Beasley slides down on his right leg. The ball hits him in the right hip, pops up in the air, and it was picked off by the Jets. There have been throws every week that were not great throws that I would like an NFL receiver to catch. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying they need to catch all of them. There's the other one when Beasley tried to high point the ball and got both hands on it, and we argued about whose fault it is. But how many times did a receiver bail him out for a not great throw this year? Not often. And that throw to John Brown was a dot. And I don't know what his little kangaroo hop that he did not get 1 foot inbounds. And then Duke Williams goes up for it in the end zone, gets two hands on it, turns onto his back.
And a majority of both hands, too.
Yeah. And then, that still wasn't the drop. Then he falls on his back with the ball, in front of his chest. It's almost like he got a second chance to catch the same ball. And so I'm not here to just defend Allen because he was not good.
That's very nice throw to Duke.
Both of those plays, so the Bills had 1st and 10 inside the 25, 3 times that turned into field goals. Both of those plays, in my opinion, turned those drives into touchdown drives. 1, because Duke Williams was in the end zone, but 2, because John Brown would have him set up at 1st and goal from the 3.
Well, that's not a slam dunk for the way that you run Frank Gore to the outside either necessarily, but it certainly would have helped the
Also
cause.
true. They do seem to get a little creative in the red zone there. Like
And
the
there's
3-yard
nothing
line,
wrong
they'll
with
spread
being
it out.
creative to a point.
No, they'll
A
spread
little
it out
too
though. Is my
creative.
point. Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
spread it out and like, you know. But
That-
anyways,
that John Brown one is frustrating me because like the ball was there. I don't know what that dumb jump.
he
I don't know
didn't
what,
need to jump. It was there.
Yeah,
That was one he just needed to plant his feet on the sidelines and pull it in.
Maybe
And
he
it's tough.
misjudged it.
And I hate. I mean, it's not wrong to blame him for this. It sucks that we're going to remember this play because really, outside of this, all season long, he has been
great.
entirely
Phenomenal.
just completely reliable, game in and game out.
He probably just misjudged
He
it.
was-
You know, a little bit of light. Who knows?
He definitely misjudged where he was on the field.
Yeah, it was a tiny bit late. I'm going to change a little bit what I said in the Slack chat. I got it to 20% Allen and 80% Brown, or 85% Brown. I'm going to say it's even about 90% Brown and 10% Allen because Allen could have let it go a little early, little tiny bit earlier, but Brown still needs to know where his feet are and keep his feet all his toes down on the ground, pull the ball in, either fall out or make sure he secures it before he shuffles out. I mean, that's all there is to that play.
Can we talk about the first kickoff of the second half?
Do you know how many people I've seen who are getting the interpretation of that so wrong? Including the head official, Tony Correnti, got it wrong initially.
I think the disconnect comes between what the rule book says and what the actual practice of the rule is, because I would guess that is not the first time, even in that game, that kick returner just took a casual look at it, threw the ball back to the ref. And I bet you if you watch every NFL game this year, that had happened upwards of 100 times, and they have never let that ball go live. Now, per the rule, that should have been a live ball. If you read the rule strictly as it's presented in the rule book, you have to either go to the ground or make a fair catch signal. Just standing there catching the ball, flailing your arm a little bit at your side, and then throwing it back to the ref is not enough to give up, like, oh, okay. And if he had taken the ball out of the end zone, they would have let that play go too. If he had taken it back for a touchdown, 108 yards or whatever, that would have stood too. It does seem a little odd. I think at the time we were all just like, there's no way they're going to let that stand because we've seen guys do this for years and years and they've never let that play go.
The play wasn't even blown dead yet.
No.
The referee steps away from the ball and like
Correnti was
he
signaling
threw-
him to
and he
not throw him the ball,
He threw a flag right away for an illegal forward pass.
which should have killed the play right there.
Well, no, you're allowed to recover that ball. It's an offensive mistake. The Bills can still pick that ball up and score. They wouldn't have been able to advance the ball as Houston at that point.
He watched
but-
the ball. He catches the ball and starts walking forward
He took two
immediately.
steps
thing-
forward.
Immediately,
That's
didn't
the big
wait.
difference too, Jeff. Like, yeah, I don't agree because I don't know if I've seen guys catch the ball and
Usually
not
when
take
they
a
throw-
half step back and kneel because usually
Yeah.
they do. And
But
he
when you-
caught it, took 2 steps forward, flipped it to the ref. The ref dove
when-
out of it like it was hot lava.
But in the NFL, when you put your arms out to the side, that's usually accompanied by letting the kick go. It
Correct.
either hits the ground
Yes.
or it flies out of bounds.
Yes.
It is never usually caught in that situation.
And I did it. So there was a series of pictures that I shared that I really liked. That one of the things that it said was at the point of the referee signaling it a touchdown, it became a scoring play. Which, whether it should have been or not, just like the Saints fumble recovery when Dalvin Cook was down, right? It's a scoring play, and then you review it and you make a decision. That never happened. It didn't go to New York. It didn't happen to say, well, wait a minute. And I get it, like the common sense rule, but I love the comparison. I think it was John Fox that said quarterbacks and victory formation every single time have to take a knee. There is no like, they don't snap it and just look at the referee and they have to take a knee. It doesn't matter the common sense or the formality. Let any guy on a punt return do what he did. He's dead. If he puts his arms out to the side and catches that ball and stands there,
That is
his
not a
head
fair
might
catch.
get knocked off his shoulders.
but the rules for fielding a punt in the field of play are different than the rules for fielding a kickoff in the end zone are. They're not as different maybe as this play would lead the outcome to be, but fielding a kickoff in the field of play is different too. He fields that ball at the 1 yard line. He can't just be like, all right, good enough.
Yeah. I
He
get
fields it in the end zone
I get it.
and-
Like it's merely a formality, but how many times have we seen a mere format, the tuck rule, right? When Sammy Watkins got pushed out of bounds against New England, they deemed that he went out of bounds backwards, so they kept the clock running. Like remember that? All of these like stupid technicalities that have consistently plagued the NFL right? Where it's like they dust off this rule of like, well, if you look here, that tuck rule was a fumble, but because Brady was trying to tuck it back into his underarm, but then it dusts off and they go, oh, well, technically, and with this, like, well, technically, if you look at it with common sense, that is not how, it's not how sports
I don't
work.
know. We can't be mad that they have these archaic catch rules and also be mad that they try to penalize the kick returner for doing what everyone else does.
Well, I think the other thing that I saw, though, is nowhere in the rule book does it give the common sense power. You know what I mean? Like they're deemed it as well.
No, that's not given for any rule.
He obviously was going to take a knee and didn't mean to bring it out. So let's just use common sense. I've seen NFL receivers catch a ball and like go to the ground catching it and put it down and stand up, and that's a fumble because in the NCAA they would be down.
Right.
But I've seen them lose possession, and it's the right call because, hey, rookie, you didn't know the rule. You can't. If he lays there for 1 second and doesn't move and just hugs the ball, they're going to give him up and say he gave himself up. Just like any fumble recovery, right? At the end of a game, they just lay down.
That's like what somebody was saying about Edmonds' fumble recovery. Why didn't they keep the play? Some people were trying to ask why they didn't keep the play going because 3 Bills players were standing over Edmonds as he's laying on the ball, not trying to get up and return it.
And they want to prevent people from turning into a pile.
I was pretty sure there's no rule in saying about giving stuff up in the end zone that being a touchback.
No, it's not.
There absolutely is a rule about giving yourself up in the end zone being a
I
touchback.
thought I saw something about that earlier.
But the rule of giving yourself up says that 1, you cannot advance the ball, which he did, and 2, you must take a knee.
Oh, I don't disagree with
Right?
that part, but I'm saying there absolutely is a rule that you can give yourself up in the end zone. Like a
But the
quarterback
way
who
you
takes a
give
knee
your-
doesn't have to be touched.
The way
and-
you give yourself up is by not advancing the ball, which he did, and taking a knee, which he didn't do.
Or
And
just walking out
there's
of
probably a
bounds.
rule too that says that if a ball bounces into the end zone and just lays there, they're not supposed to play it dead, and they call it dead every single week on a kickoff.
The rule is if the ball touches the ground in the end zone, it's down.
Why did the NFL pop into this at all? Like usually they want to review it. Like we never see the guy in the black jacket come on the field.
Yeah, you had 2 alternate officials.
2
come
guys
out
in the
on
black jackets
sidelines.
just come right out onto the field. Never seen that before.
And that was the point of if it was deemed a scoring play, it should have been reviewed by New York. The NFL should have reviewed that in league offices. Whether it was right to be called a touchdown or not, by rule, it's a scoring play and it should get reviewed.
I think one of the
turnover, 2 it's a scoring play.
Yep.
I think one of the officials had to come on the field because the Houston special teams coach had run into the end zone in the face of the official, and they had to have one of the other officials come in and keep him away from the conversation on the live microphone. The other one was, I don't know, the other one was just there, I suppose. I don't know.
always
I think
feels
if,
like
I think
the
if this
Bills.
was such a thing that Sean McDermott or some player would have said something. Everyone who said something on the internet today is just a fan who's trying to find a reason that this team lost.
Sure.
When the reason is because the offense didn't score in second.
And let's be
crumble.
clear, this is not why they lost. The
No,
game.
not at all. Not at all.
It would have been nice to have
But
the touchdown.
sign me up for 23-0.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
16.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, one of the big reasons they lost, my friend Taylor was very quick to point out, why couldn't you stop them on a 2-point conversion once?
I was just going to say, another factor is the defense could not make a play when they had
Yeah.
to. 3rd and 18, and they dropped back behind the fucking first down line. Like the right play call, but very poorly executed. And you have to stop at least one of those 2-point conversions.
Yeah.
And everybody's trying to talk about the delay of game that's supposed to be there, but you know what? The way that delay of game rule is enforced is the back judge who would make that call is waiting. If he's looking at the clock, and then if the ball is snapped at 0, and if it's not snapped, he's
watching the clock in the end zone.
Once it hits zeros,
He
he looks
then
for
looks
the
at
ball.
the ball.
Yes.
And if it's gone, it's no foul.
So people get away with that all
Yes,
the time.
all the
It's
time.
kind of
I mean,
stupid that it
that's
happens when you have
nothing.
that timing level, but
Correct.
it is how they enforce the rule.
But
I've seen the clock at
is
0 is
nothing
longer,
there.
and then snapped, and then
Yes.
no
I
penalty.
mean,
the
Allen
back judge doesn't see it.
Allen got away with longer than
when he called the timeout.
Watson. Yep.
When he called the timeout, that should have
was
been
a lot
delay against
longer.
Could have
Buffalo.
came from the sideline, too. We don't know.
True.
Yeah. And if you're going to nitpick the calls, I think the illegal blindside block on Cody Ford is way worse
That is
than any of these things we've
There
talked
is
about.
much more of a blindside block on one of the 2-point
Watson's
conversions.
touchdown. Watson's
Was it touchdown or
run.
conversion?
On Watson's touchdown run, the
Yeah.
long one.
The running back is blocking a cornerback.
And stops and turns
And then
back towards.
disengages and jumps back at Edmonds.
Yep.
And that was a blindside block.
It's a crackback block. What Robert Woods got called for all the time with Buffalo.
The old Heinz Ward play.
Yeah.
But the dude that Ford was blocking was like looking at him for like a
Yeah.
second or two, like looking right at him, like face to face.
Yeah, they need to redefine that. I mean, that is where common sense has to come in and say, you can't call a blindside block on a guy that's looking straight at you.
And that's a play that took him out of. That's the play that took him out of the field
Took him
goal.
out of field goal range,
Right.
yeah. I don't know. My takeaway from this game, and I watched 3 of the 4 playoff games this weekend in full. I didn't watch Philly and Seattle. Just NFL officiating is so broken at this point. And it didn't cost the Bills the game. It didn't. I don't think it changed the outcome of any game this weekend. It's just, as a fan who watches, like we all in this room watch a pretty good amount of football, and I think we understand the rules pretty well. And there are, in every single game I watch in its entirety, and I watch a lot of Red Zone during the year, so I don't watch a lot of games in their entirety until the playoffs. And I'm watching all these playoff games, and I don't understand how something is called and something else isn't. Yep. Or how is this a blindside block, but this isn't? How is this unsportsmanlike conduct? How is this PI, but this isn't? And every game, instead of just being like, well, it sucks. We lost to Houston. We have 5 or 6 different things. You're like, man, all these things went the other way, and what if they didn't? And there were some things that went against Houston too that maybe shouldn't have. We just don't analyze them because we wanted them all to go against Houston. But every game, and even the overtime catch for Rudolph, you're sitting there wondering, like, well, they're going to change this one too because maybe he pushed off a tiny little bit. It's taken the fun out of the game. The way they officiate the game has made it less fun to watch playoff football. It is frustrating. And I just want to sit there and enjoy the playoffs. And the refs take it away.
Someone on the Bills fan page said, you guys are all so mad about the Houston kick return. How would you feel if Andre Roberts did that and they called it a touchdown? I'm like,
Andre Roberts almost did that.
I'd be mad at him. Like, that's a bonehead play. Like, don't leave that kind of room for anything to happen. Like, wait, fair catch and take a knee. Like, whatever you got to do. Like,
did you see the kickoff return? I think it was after the first Houston touchdown or after the field goal. I can't remember which one. Where Roberts almost flipped the ball to Correnti in the end zone and then caught himself before down.
That's what I'm saying. I bet you, and we don't pay attention. I bet you these guys do this all the time.
I saw people say he was doing that to kind of mock what happened.
I don't believe it. But I believe it's just what he does every time. And he's like, oh, this guy's actually going to call me on the strict rule. I better take a knee. But I bet you that Andre Roberts has flipped the ball back to that back judge 50 times this year. It's just never on camera or important because he's down the ball in the end zone.
But was a play blown dead, though? It's different.
I bet you it's blown dead every single time.
The play was not blown dead here.
I think in large part because when he caught it, he walked forward.
Yeah, he was walking. Literally, he caught it, walked forward, and threw at the official who actively dodged it.
I'm just saying, if Andre Roberts had done that, we would have been like, oh, look at the NFL bring out this archaic, strict rule that we've never seen them enforce before. And just because it almost worked the other way against the Bills, we have to try to act like we defended. I think this is just a straw man argument.
Enough about the refs. It's not why they lost. Factor.
I mean, that's one factor, but the fact that they're not scoring touchdowns in the red zone possessions
and
is
they got
a huge factor.
Super conservative when they got ahead. They just stopped doing everything that got them there. They were going in. They played as a road team. They played an aggressive style. That first offensive drive where they went down the field and Allen catches that touchdown, that was the best Bills offensive drive of the entire season.
McKenzie was in motion every play.
Yeah, and they use motion such a small percentage of the time. That drive, Dable's like, all right, you're ready for what you saw on tape for 16 games? Here's this. And they had no idea what to do with it.
I was going to make a joke saying he's working hard for that Browns job. Please hire him. Hire him.
Dable is not the one that's causing them to throw Allen to make bad reads and throw bad passes and receivers not knowing.
He's calling plays like putting a fullback downfield with Lee Smith.
Well, he inflates the football so that every time Josh Allen tries to throw a deep ball, it's 10 yards too far.
He's running Frank Gore to the outside.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that.
He's running Frank Gore 8 times when Singletary is running 4.5 yards a carry.
Singletary had 16 carries
13
on
rushes.
Yeah, 16 touches. He had 16 touches, Singletary, right?
No, even more than that.
I don't know.
Because he
had 6 catches.
19.
Okay.
19.
So even still.
He was playing lights out.
He was playing very well.
Frank Gore had 22 yards on 8 carries. His longest was 14. That's the tells you the game, Frank Gore. He had one good run at the end of the game.
And the rest were all literally back to the line of
trash. Yeah.
There was one that was 3 yards.
I don't know which one he made that binary tweet, but it was really funny.
It had to been Bill then. It wasn't me. I'm not that clever.
It wasn't me. So shout out to Bill if he's listening. That was funny. I laughed at that. So I think we mentioned to Justin and I talked about it earlier. I don't think there was a single point in that game where the first guy to get to Devin Singletary took him down by himself.
No.
He made the first guy miss or get help every single time he
They
touched
were talking
the ball.
about that with, I think it was one of Singletary's carries that for Houston, the Bills were getting at around 100 yards after contact, like between the receiving and rushing, 100 yards after contact.
I saw a picture with Devin Singletary right along the sideline with 2 Texans squared up right in front of him, and it was just a still shot. And Singletary's like mid-juke, and there's 2 guys like both 2 yards in front of him squared up, and they're like, this didn't result in the tackle. And that was the play where like either he caught the screen pass like a bubble on the outside and made them both miss and ripped it off for like 15
He
yards.
was playing lights out, like total money player. Like this game matters. I'm going to ball out. They should have kept feeding him.
Yep, 100%.
Like even just a little swing pass in the backfield, but that Josh Allen can't touch that pass.
Nope.
He has no touch to make that pass into the backfield, which is why you never see the Bills do it.
Yeah.
He actually tried to hit Frank Gore one, and he fucking rocketed it right to the fucking.
Yeah.
It's a laser. Like Frank Gore was tight too. He just can't make those throws.
Frank Gore is not a slouch of a receiver, and he just
His best attribute is blocking and receiving.
especially at this point in his career.
But also, someone who played lights out, minus the one drop, is I thought Duke Williams played an insane game.
Yeah, he had some
I think
big-
he played very
He
good.
had some very big plays.
Yeah, he had two very clutch catches in the first half.
And they were
You dwell
super
on the
hard
almost
catches.
touchdown because it's a huge momentum play if he makes that catch. But outside of that, I think it was by and far his best game as a Buffalo Bill. And I am curious to see what the future is for him, if they add more receivers or how many of these guys do you want to carry? Because right now you've got Brown and Beasley, who you would think are solidly in their roles. McKenzie has his role as that kind of fourth guy, the motion guy who can run. You have Roberts, who's doing kick returns. You have Williams, and you have Foster, and whoever else. And that's
They
assuming.
re-signed Ray McLeod.
And they still have Ray McLeod. Thank God for that. And then you figure they're probably going to draft it or bring in at least one other guy in free agency. So
I think-
one of these guys is going to be Dunzo.
I think either one of either McLeod or McKenzie goes.
Well, I think
they're
McLeod
two-
is McLeod. I think it might be McLeod plus one because outside of McLeod, you still got 6 other guys. You're not going to
Well,
carry
I'm
7
thinking
or
out
8
of those.
receivers.
No, I'm thinking just because out of those two, they're both basically seem to be the same, utilized the same. So I
Yeah.
think if you keep one,
Let's forget what his
you
real
keep
name
one.
is. Forget that his full name isn't Duke.
Yeah, it's Tequil.
Dakeel. Well, maybe that's why I don't remember him playing at Auburn at all.
The Edmonton Eskimos.
I enjoyed that he was the guy who that gif of the receiver blowing the guy off the line who was calling out the receiver in motion to come at him. He just plows right through him.
Yes.
It's good to see that guy here. I thought he played very well. I think there's a role for him. Allen seems to like throwing to him. I don't know if it's just because he finally has a guy who's over 6 feet tall, which is something I've heard mentioned by every single national broadcast over the last month and a half of how short John Brown is. I don't give a shit. John Brown is awesome. He is a number 1 receiver.
Wait,
You can
John
get a-
Brown short?
He's a little short. He's a little guy. I loved every single second of Josh Allen doing the John Brown touchdown dance when he caught the pass from John Brown. That brought me life.
Yeah, that brought me life.
If we could circle back to play calling and Dable for a second here, I do think that it is tough for me to judge Brian Dable as a play caller because a lot of what he has done very well as a play caller is scheme guys open deep. And a lot of what Josh Allen has struggled to do is throw the ball to guys who are open deep. I think if Josh Allen is hitting more deep balls, we would be like, wow, Brian Dable is a genius. But because he misses a lot of these deep balls on guys who are 5-10 yards behind coverage, we wonder where those plays are when they're right there. And you watch the all-22 plays, like, man, Allen had him. He beat this guy. Think about that play that John Brown made against Gilmore where he was wide open. That was not an isolated incident of a guy just burning a guy deep on a great designed route where they drew the safety away. But Allen never hits that guy except for that time to Brown. I think Dable is capable of a
Under
lot.
less
I
than
don't think he's
great
perfect. I think there's things that I don't like about what he does. I think there's things I don't like about basically every offensive coordinator. I didn't like them about Rick Dennison. I didn't like some things about Chan Gailey. I didn't like something about whoever else has been the OC. Greg Roman was a pain, even though he's really good at it now. Remember when he got fired putting up 40 points against the Jets? You hate to see it.
But see, I don't see a problem with someone like the DeMarco thing being out wide. I mean, I can see if they were using that to maybe have him run a clear route for whoever else was on his side or as a safety valve. But it's the usage of DeMarco running down the sideline that's a problem.
But why do you need why do you use a fullback to run a clearing route? You have all these receivers. You have I don't know.
There were a few because I don't remember the full play, like in the substitution package, or whether they went in the huddle or just kept personnel package out there or not. It may have been a play that may have been more designed for Knox, but they were stuck with Smith and DeMarco.
I know, whenever you see DeMarco
reason.
go out to the right, wide right,
The ball goes to him.
every time.
Right, but maybe
every time this year.
Sometimes he also sits and is like maybe like a 3 yard
Well, it
and
depends
then
on the zone.
sit there.
And the
Depends
ball's
on-
always in the dirt, so he either can't catch it or has to dig it out.
It's a read
But it's-
route.
but
It
it's
depends on the zone coverage he sees. You just stop and stay there, or you take off.
I don't trust the fullback doing a read.
He's only on the
route,
field for 9% of the plays or whatever he
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, but Field Yates says that the Bills use the fullback all the time.
Field Yates has a really high expectation of what a lot of I love
even
that
about-
everyone blew him up in the comments about Sherman's only been on the field for 40
It's not even
plays
about
this year.
the fullbacks. About when Devin Singletary's having a game,
Yep.
he gets the ball 9 times and that's it in a running game. Things like that. He doesn't use his players right or well, in my opinion. You could be using Cole Beasley in such a more effective way, in my opinion, but they're not.
almost half of Singletary's yards on the ground came on one carry though.
He had a
did have
good
one
game,
really
though.
big rub.
Yeah, but he had
Yeah.
a good game
Yeah.
in general.
And a lot of that was in the passing game.
Is
With Beasley too, though, is it all Dable? Does Dable have to make that throw to Beasley every time himself? I mean, there's certainly an argument to be made about not giving the ball to Singletary enough. That's for sure.
Is part of this personnel still that they're better than they were, but they need a guy that can play like Duke Williams, who does have maybe better hands or a little bit more speed. That their backup running back isn't Frank.
Or do they have a quarterback who can't play quarterback that well?
Maybe.
Yeah, we want to have that conversation. Justin and I had a fun lunch conversation today that we want to bring onto this podcast.
I'm just not ready to bail on him yet.
No. We are still firmly believers of Josh Allen here on the 76
Yeah, at this
Sports
point
Podcast.
you do have to give him. I say you have to give him at least the third, unless he regresses badly.
Yeah. No,
you
he
have to
can-
give him the fourth season too.
I am in no hurry to even consider moving on from Josh Allen.
I mean, and he
especially
would have
considering
to-
how he led this team this year.
I mean, he would have to go full Mitch Trubisky for me to say
And
get rid of him.
the Bears have already said Mitch Trubisky's their quarterback next year.
Yeah, let's see how that goes for him.
I thought they said they were getting rid of him.
No.
Yeah, well, you know how
Wow.
things go down there. The argument about Josh Allen that we had is Josh Allen a good quarterback or is he a good athlete? Josh Allen, I think, is a really good athlete. He's just one of those guys where if you were out there just playing rec ball and he was just out there making things up, he'd run all over you. He could catch the ball, he can throw the ball the entire length of the field. But I don't think he reads the defense well at all. I don't think he responds to pressure well at all. He's a great runner. He's a great leader. He's a great athlete. I do not think that he is a good quarterback. I don't think he's a good passer. He has a good enough arm that he's able to get away with things, but he's he's got a below average completion. Yeah, he makes good throws, and that's what makes it frustrating. If he just never made the throws, it would be like, okay, well, he can't be a downfield passer. He has the capability if he hones some skills. But right now, the Josh Allen that exists as quarterback of the Buffalo Bills is a crazy good athlete.
He's
not a
making these
passer.
arguments all year long. He makes great throws, but it's every 40 passes. And it's like I said last week on the show, he's a franchise character for sure. He's a great leader. He's got all those abilities, but I haven't seen the quarterbacking yet.
Yeah.
He's not. If he's come at me as hard as you want. As hard as you want. He's not a great passer. I wouldn't say he's a good passer. I wouldn't even say he's above average. I would say he's an average to below average passer in this league, and it's a passing league.
Yeah.
Whether you're a cold weather quarterback in Buffalo or not, it's a fucking passing league.
And you can mask a
Cold
little
weather
bit.
quarterback doesn't matter when you're in a fucking dome.
Yeah, and he wasn't good in
Texas.
the cold.
What encourages me is that last year he couldn't hit the slant, he couldn't hit the 5-yard routes, and this year he showed the ability to hit those. But it seemed like he regressed in other areas. I'm not disagreeing. I was nodding yes the whole time you're talking.
and
I can't argue with anything you said.
And he still can't figure out when he's got to take something off the pass.
Yeah, so
He has so much talent.
Yeah.
His arm talent is insane. I've never seen it before. Maybe I almost said Drew Stafford.
Matt Stafford. I mean, there's only a handful of guys who can throw the ball as effortlessly. Stafford is up there. Mike Vick. I remember I was watching the NFL countdown, top 100 plays of the decade. That throw that Vick made on that one Monday night to Deshaun Jackson, 75 yards downfield, is like casually just
Looked like
dumps
me
it
throwing a
70
dart.
yards down the airfield.
But these are just basic quarterback things you got to put together. And there's obviously still time he's young, but they're also basic quarterback skills in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you know what? The Bills' offensive line graded well this year because they didn't give up a lot of sacks or whatever. I wonder how much of that and how accurate it can be because Allen did get out of a lot of trouble this year, and I do think he could use more time back there. There are times that one play where Brown was just settled down in between the zones. Allen had time to take a 3-step drop, stop, set his feet, and he delivered it. And I know every NFL quarterback should be able to do that.
It was a good throw, though.
Yes, exactly. And I think that we often forget that Allen has not been able to if Allen was a pocket passer, he'd be the worst quarterback in the league because I don't think he's had the protection to stand back there and read a play and make a throw. But when you watch like Pro Football Focus, they grade the offensive line as pretty good. because they've only given up so many sacks. But that doesn't mean that Allen had more than 2 seconds in the pocket, right? Like,
not giving up a sack is the offensive line version of plus minus. Like,
Correct.
having a good plus minus doesn't mean that you played well. It means the guys around you didn't put you in a position where you failed.
But the thing is, you can have an 80% grade at overall as an offensive line, but only 4 out of 5 guys are doing their job on every play.
right.
I don't disagree. So I think the offensive line conversation is a good segue into talking about one of the watershed moments of the game. Let's talk about that drive in the fourth quarter where they got in the first time they got into field goal range. It's a third down play. Now, full disclosure, my watching ability was a little impeded. I was calling the Canisius hockey game Saturday night, so I watched this drive before the game started, and then I picked up bits and pieces and highlights from here on. So it's a third down play. They are in field goal range. Allen takes the ball, rolls left, goes way back, and gets sacked. Now, obviously, you would hope your left tackle doesn't get completely blown up on that play. But if there is one thing that has to be in your head as a quarterback, you cannot take a sack on that play, no matter what. You cannot. You are capable of throwing the ball 70 yards down the field. If you catch that ball at the 30 and you see someone coming at you, you take a step and you launch that ball into the 15th row because you can throw it at the back of the end zone, no intentional grounding, no one's going to get close to it. You cannot, and Justin, I think you mentioned it, that was a quintessential hero ball moment. He thought he was going to be able to spin away from that guy and make something happen. He thought he was going to make the play that Deshaun Watson made in overtime. Instead, he takes a sack and goes way back.
We see that. It's interesting because you talk about like how often we probably don't realize the returner flips the ball. I think right away to the Super Bowl when Ryan took that sack and put him out of field goal range. Like there are so many times when you would say like the only thing that you can't do here is take a sack. And guys like Matt Ryan, who I think are pretty good quarterbacks, have done it. And it's just crazy because it's easy for us to say in a vacuum, but for them when they have, 0.7 seconds to react, I'm not defending him, but you're right. Like you cannot take a sack there. And we see it time and time again where they make the worst play. Hey, the only thing that you can't do here is touch this button. They're like, okay, touch the button.
Yeah. Like if he takes a knee, they kick a field goal. Now they end up getting away with this particular instance because the defense finds a way to get them in a position that they can go down and Hausch gets the chance he deserved in the first place to kick the field goal and send the game to overtime. But maybe it's for Allen. I bet it's a little bit of inexperience too. I know he'll never say it was the case. It was still his first playoff game, and the lights are brighter and bigger. I thought he played pretty well, especially in the first half. All things considered, for a first playoff game, you hope that the next time he's there, or the future, that he doesn't make that play. It's just frustrating to watch.
Well, and then the time where he tried to get rid of it, he threw it to Singletary was somewhat in that pack of linemen that were there, but Feliciano throws his hands up and knocks it down. It's like, damn it.
Was it a lateral, too? What was he thinking? Like, what's going through your head?
That lateral was hero ball.
And then you were talking about the sack on third down?
Yeah.
Did you talk about the sack after that?
I didn't talk about the second fourth down.
Where he ran back and basically put them in field goal range. On
he put it on their side of the 50.
4th and 27.
Yeah.
Oh, right, well, now they're
Like, okay, you know what would be, the only thing that would be worse than you taking the sack on third down would be you also taking a sack on fourth down and giving them the ball in field goal range. He's like, challenge accepted. Yeah. And he does the exact same thing, runs even farther back, and gets sacked again by the same guy.
Again, the hero ball thing. He's trying to extend the play, just going you can't do anything facing backwards, though.
I'm less mad about that one, though, because it's fourth down in the fourth quarter. You don't think you're going to get the ball back, and you really have to try to keep that play.
The biggest dumb play, he tries to scramble by himself, and he's got guys open in front of him. Singletary's right there waiting for him to make a play, and he starts to scramble and just drops the ball. And that's a big play of the game.
If he would have been more decisive, he wouldn't have dropped the ball because he hadn't tucked it because he wasn't determined he was going to run yet. Right? He was still looking downfield, and there was green acres in front of him. And if he would have actually taken off, he wouldn't have fumbled. But he hadn't made that decision.
And he still had the ball in his right hand, just kind of hanging down there by his leg.
And I'm blaming him for being indecisive there. Because if there's someone able to make a play, but you look in front of you and the Red Sea has parted, and you're Josh Allen and you see 15 yards of green turf in front of you, sure, take off and run. But he didn't make that decision.
Yeah, the good thing, I guess, to point out, a lot of his issues are just dumb decisions. Mm-hmm. And maybe in time they'll stop.
We have seen some of them stop, have we not?
Whenever the Bills go down, he tries to do it all on his own. That's got to stop.
His dumb
gotta rely on his teammates.
decisions.
He's
have
gotten
stopped a
better
little
about
bit
not
because-
making the across the field throw
Yes,
double coverage that he made a lot earlier.
Because that was the first 4 weeks where like he has to stop making
Remember
that
that
throw.
Detroit preseason game when he made that throw and everyone was like, "Oh Jesus Christ, here we go again."
I think one of the reasons like Tom Brady, for example, is so good. It's not good. He's a great player. The cliche is take whatever the defense gives you, and that's all Tom Brady does.
I was just thinking about that when we had this conversation about Allen. I know the Patriots lost, but have we ever, regardless of how the Patriots have ever done good or bad, can we think of a moment that Tom Brady ever cost them a key playoff game? They have not won some playoff games that he has played in, but I don't think you ever look back at a play and be like, man, if Brady didn't make this one play, the Patriots would have won.
Can you name one play off top, one throw off the top of your head? Was like, oh my god, that throw Brady made is absolutely unbelievable, and they won the game.
Yeah,
maybe
not
Randy
recently.
Moss is on the team. I can't think-
He's made some in his career that are pretty nutty.
But
The Gronk touchdown
he's just really good at take.
against the Rams was an
He's
absolute
so
dime.
disciplined. He just takes what the D gives him. It's all he does. Little quick outs, little quick dinks and dunks. He doesn't do a ton.
Well, that's what like all the best NFL quarterbacks statistically of all time are him, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees. And I would not consider any of the three of those men to be crazy athletes. They are just students of the game. They always seem to make the good reads. And until Peyton's arm kind of gave out on him during his last couple of years, and he won a Super Bowl anyway, so more power to him. I mean, these guys are just, they have good arm talent. They don't have the best arm talent. They're not the best runners. They're not the best physical specimens. I mean, look at Brady's combine photos, and Drew Brees is shorter than me sitting on this couch talking about him. And what makes them different is they always make the good read. They make the good decision. Yeah, they're crazy good throwers too, but there's a lot of guys who are crazy good throwers who never sniffed the NFL. There's guys who are crazy good throwers who flamed out after a couple of years playing pro quarterback. The difference is mental. Football is the reason I like watching football compared to other sports is football is a lot more of a chess match. It has that baseball element to it. It's a physical game for sure, and there's times that just being a good athlete is good enough. But at the core, it is you design a play against the other guy, and whoever designs the better play is going to win more often than not. And you trust that your guys in the field, especially your field general, your quarterback, is going to make the right read. And the guys who make the right reads win Super Bowls. The guys who don't make the right reads go home.
Well, the thing is, too, guys like Brady, Breeze, Manning, they all made the receivers they had better. They had, well, it could be argued, especially in the past few years, that Brady didn't have as good of receivers, but they all made their receivers better. I mean, Drew Brees, I don't even know if I've ever heard of half of his receivers, and he's still putting up near at 5,000 yards per season.
Yeah, outside of Michael Thomas this year, it's Ted Ginn, Traquan Smith, Jared Cook.
Ted Ginn is still in the league.
Yeah. They're serviceable guys, but these are not. Ted Ginn's not an all-pro. Ted Ginn's just a guy who's run some decent routes and has some good speed. Traquan Smith is a good depth guy. Jared Cook is still running good routes, but I think Brady's the best example of that this year. This is currently, they've got Edelman, who is hurt 7 ways to Sunday. You've got Philip Dorsett, who's nobody. You've got N'Keal Harry, who missed half a season as a rookie. They had Josh Gordon until he started smoking the weed. Oh, they traded him before he got caught smoking the weed. They had Antonio Brown for a weekend. This is even,
Mohamed Sanu.
They traded a pick for Mohamed Sanu. That really didn't work out.
He had 800 yards on the year or something. Not a second-round pick for a guy who had 812 yards.
Good for Atlanta. It is nice to see Belichick and that team lose a trade for once. That really did not work out well. And they went ahead and won the Josh Gordon trade, so good for them. And I don't know. Now anything that we said about Allen, we're still all in on Josh Allen. I'm all about it. I think that he has a chance to still improve. The future is bright. Holy crap, Connor McDavid just addressed the entire Leafs defense. I just wish there was a little bit more. It feels good to be frustrated, though, because how many Bill seasons have gone by and we come here like, well, they suck again. And we just talk about it, we laugh about it, and we go on with our day. It feels good that the team was good enough that I got invested in it, and that I'm sad that they lost. I'm sad that I don't get to watch the Bills play next weekend.
Yeah. I haven't felt that way watching the game in a long time. I actually couldn't wait for it to be over. I couldn't deal with it anymore. Like I felt a knot in my heart. I was shaking. When they both tied the game, I was shaking. I haven't done that watching any Buffalo sports game in like a decade, I think.
Sounds about right.
But
neither team's been really great for that long or longer.
So about Dable, I don't think Dable deserves to get fired at all by any means. But if he takes the Browns job, if he gets it by chance, I'm kind of thrilled. I think there are better out there. Remember when they signed him? They just fired Dennison, and they took him a while to sign. to find Dable because no one wanted the job because it's Josh Allen. The offense was such a mystery. Now the mystery about Josh Allen's kind of gone. You can see he can play the game. Was a baller, and they have a whole new offense. There's a whole new line. They have whole new receivers. So I think there'd be more interest in position. But also Ken Dorsey, who's on our staff. I'd like to see a coordinator with Josh Allen who played quarterback, sees the game like a quarterback, can feel the game like a quarterback, and work with a quarterback.
I guess my main reason for wanting Dable to stay would be consistency.
I
want
totally
Allen to get
agree
to
with
work
that.
in the same system because I think he made a big step in that system from last year to
How
this
many
year.
times have you seen Josh Allen throw a ball 46 times a game? But he's not a volume passer.
Yeah.
He threw the ball 46 times this game. And I went back and counted.
Yeah, a lot of them were.
16 of which were in the last 2 drives.
Yeah.
But I just think the personnel can be utilized better a lot. I'm not
I
saying get rid
continue
of
to
him.
I continue
I'm
to
saying
go
I
too.
won't be upset if he goes
Like
away.
if my biggest frustration with Dable yesterday was the run plays to Gore that were turning into nothing. But I just continue to go back to if the other plays that he dials up were executed, then I think people love him. Like if Duke Williams catches that touchdown and John Brown touches the toes at the 2-yard line, because you said they didn't really have chunk plays, Jeff. Both of those would have been chunk plays. They both were over 20 yards. Like they both would have been. They were downfield passes, and those were not on Dable. Dable, like I tell people all the time, when Josh Allen overthrows a guy by 5 yards, Dable schemed him open, right? If a guy has a step behind the defensive back and the result of the play is Allen overthrowing him by 5 yards, Dable did his job. He drew up a play, as you're talking about the chess match. He drew up a play that gave the Bills the advantage, and they didn't execute. And that's what makes people zoom in on that 5-minute stretch in the third quarter when the Bills went 3 and out twice, right? Like, but if those plays are being made, it's like time healing all wounds. Scoring heals all wounds. And that's the big thing that I put on Dable's, like, on the positive side, is they're not out there running an offense and we're like, what the hell are you doing most of the time? It's, why can't you make this work? Mm-hmm. Why aren't they scoring? Why aren't they catching this ball? Right? Like, it's not a vanilla offense. It's not, they run the ball. It's not run, pass, kick. It's far from it.
I think the same thing. Like, what's not happening?
Yeah.
It's because wait, is he missing open guys? Is he just not making the
Probably.
plays? Josh Allen?
Yes.
Like I don't sit there and watch every all. I don't watch all 22.
The way I look at it is, you talk about those games, those plays you scheme, the first 10 to 15 plays of a game, however many it is. Think of what that game started as. It was good play to Singletary, designed long run downfield for Allen, fake reverse pass to Allen. Dable, like the plays that they schemed, they're like, we're going to do this and we're going to hit him with this, were great. They were dynamite. They were exciting. But when Allen's at the line making adjustments, I really just don't think he reads a defense very well.
I'm saying that forever.
I know, and I don't think it's improved enough. I think it's improved to the point that he doesn't force the ball into coverage, and he's more willing to tuck the ball down or take a dump off, which is good. That's a good quality to have. He's not like gun shy that he won't throw the ball downfield, but he isn't forcing things as much, which is good. But the other side is, I don't think he sees guys. I don't think he sees the defense well, and I think he misses a lot of deep balls. Those are things to work on. I think you can get better at reading defenses the more games that you play. So I think that's something you can improve.
With these numbers, 81 plays, 11 drives, 425 yards, 24 first downs, 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
1 touchdown. Those are pretty good 100 numbers.
Yeah.
But 1 touchdown.
1 touchdown and then nothing for 60 minutes after that.
And a number of 38-yard field goals. They
Yeah.
could have gained to the red zone for most of the time.
Yeah, 4
And
House
Houston
Cup field
secondary is
goals.
all sorts of banged up too, so they felt like there was ways to attack them.
Yeah. Missing their best cornerback.
Yeah, they put a safety on IR before the game, basically, like the day before the game.
And another one went down mid-game.
Yeah. But herein lies the eulogy for another Buffalo Bills season. At least this one, it felt more like a real playoff trip. I know you guys put the poll on Twitter this week about whether you felt more confident about this or Jacksonville. I think for me it was not even close, that I felt more like this team could win a playoff game. It's the best Bills team since the Music City Miracle, possibly. Easily.
I think to me, what it comes down to is that the defense could not make a play when they had to. They were there all year long. You say what you want about the offense not doing their job, but the defense didn't make the plays when they needed to.
Yeah, I mean, I just disagree. You held a team to 22 points, including overtime in a playoff game at home. You held Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins and Carlos Hyde and all these guys at 22 points. Your offense needs to score more than 19 points in regulation. There is no ifs, ands, and buts about it. That's 10 straight.
Well, this
more than 19 points in regulation and 10 minutes of overtime.
Yeah.
It's 70 minutes to score more than 19 points.
Yeah, but look at it this way: isn't this only like the second or third time all season they've allowed 20 or more points on defense? In this game, it took overtime. So basically, anytime that we're just going to go with regulation, they gave up 19 points. So they score 20 points, they win. That's 3 touchdowns. That should not be that hard.
The
for
defense did
NFL
what they've done all
offense.
year. We're like, you guys got to 21 and you win the game, and the offense didn't do it.
Sorry, I interrupted you, Jeff. Did you want to put a eulogy on the season?
No, it's like it's sad. We said here we're sad. We enjoyed it. It was a good ride. We had a lot that I think early in the season, when you wondered if the schedule was going to line up enough, could the Bills do enough? There were stretches of play where like, oh, they really need to win one of these 2 games, and they went and won both games, and they comfortably won a wild card berth. They had a Week 17 game where they got to rest starters for the first time, I think, in my entire life almost. It was a good season, and it's frustrating to see it end the way that it did, because this team was one more good drive away from traveling and playing at Kansas City. Which is interesting to see that both the wild cards and the AFC won. It did make me feel a little bit better, and I know this is just me, the fatalist who, I grew up getting disappointed by the Bills every year. I did feel a lot better watching the Patriots also lose. It really took the sting off the weekend a bit for me. So at least no matter what happens, this will be the first year since 2013 that neither the Patriots nor the Alabama Crimson Tide win a championship.
So I'm excited for the offseason because they already have a good team to build on. Right,
and a lot of money.
They currently have $90 million in cap space for next year, and the cap is estimated to go up another 15 or 12 million. I saw earlier, so that's over $100 million in cap space for one of the top defenses in the league and an improved offense.
Well, you've got to replace one starter already.
We got to re-sign Poyer. I think they need to re-sign Poyer, not replace Poyer.
No, they got to replace Alexander. He retired.
Yeah,
I want to keep Poyer.
They need to pay him when he wants.
Doesn't he have a year left?
Keep him and Rachel here.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to look towards spending some money on him. I don't hate the concept of giving him an extension, trying to get him to take a little bit of a cut.
You have to immediately start trying to re-sign Trey White.
Yep.
Yeah.
Before his contract is over, extend him. I don't know.
Well, you have to keep Poyer and White together.
You have the 5th-year option in 2 years still, right, with him? So,
yeah,
yes.
you do.
So you don't have to. I mean, you have 2 years to extend him. I think because he's going to play in the 4th year, and they'll make a decision at the beginning of the 4th year if they're going to exercise
which they will, because he's one of the best.
I thought he was further in his contract, so my bad.
What's that?
I thought he was further along in his contract.
This will be his 4th year, right? Because he was the year before Josh.
He's coming up on his 4th year.
Yeah. So they'll have to make a decision early on this year about his 5th year, which they'll, of course, keep, and they'll have 2 more full years left. Yep. And, I mean, the pieces that are leaving, I mean, Shaq Lawson's going to be a free agent. Jordan Phillips is going to be a free agent.
Do either of those guys take hometown discounts to stay?
I think it seems these players love this locker room and the fan base.
And by hometown discount, I don't mean pennies. Like Shaq Lawson's 5th-year option would have been $9 million, and the Bills looked at his 3 years of work and said, "No, not going to pay you $9 million."
And I don't blame him either. I think that was the right move.
Neither do I. But now he's probably worth 13 to 15 because of what a good pass rusher he is. So do you go to Shaq and say, "Hey man, you did great. We're really proud of you. You know, you would have made 9 next year. How's 11 for the next 3 years?" You know what I mean?
I liken it to the Sam Reinhart situation where you want a little 2-year, $11 million per. We'll throw some incentives in there. You make a Pro Bowl, here's another $1 kind of deal, or something you hit in a certain, like the Trent Murphy, you get X amount of sacks in a season, we'll give you $1 million kind of thing. I would be happy with that. I think Jordan Phillips had a great season, and he was a difference maker on defense. I don't see how you can justify paying what he's going to get on the open market
with Harrison Phillips coming back.
They have to remember too that I think next year is Jerry Hughes last year.
They did extend him, but I don't know for how long.
I think the following season is next year.
I mean, I would also be more concerned that Hughes is not exactly the young guy in the locker room anymore too. And he's not going to keel over on the field tomorrow and can't play his snaps, but he's not going to be quite as quick.
I'm saying it might be worth paying
plan for life after Jerry Hughes.
If Lawson goes to the market, what does he make though? Because someone
pass rusher market is nutso.
Someone will pay him that big money.
Yeah, he'll get $15 million easy. and that's crazy to think. But edge rusher money, I mean, it's a passing league, like Justin said. It's a passing league, so being able to disrupt the passer is equally important. So if you have guys who are able to get at the quarterback, and I think that Shaq has put some pretty good tape together this year. He's still really young. It'll be his 5th year in the league. And there's a good argument to be made that he figured a lot of things out this year.
He's just 2 more years.
So he's just 2 more years? Okay.
I knew they just extended him last year, I think, right? Didn't he just get a contract
That does
extension
sound right.
last season?
So much has happened since the last time Jerry Hughes signed a contract. We've lived our lives. We've gone into the year 2020. This is the first recorded podcast of the calendar year 2020. We really buried the lead on that one. Feels good to still be here in Justin's room with his green screen and his fat head. Some things never change. It's good to have some constants in life. Speaking of constants in life, the Buffalo Sabres continue to be an enigma. They're on a win streak.
They're a consistent
that is
enigma.
good.
That is
They're
the
an
best
enigma.
They traded their best statistical defender. That is bad. They traded him for a forward indirectly. That is good.
The forward hasn't scored 20 goals.
The forward has been really
games.
bad of late. That is bad. But he's a forward not named Dalton Smith, so that's good.
The fact that they signed Dalton Smith,
Not great. Those jerseys they wore at the skills comp on Sunday, really good. The fact that the 90s day had Jim Lorentz back, and that made me sad that I have to go listen to Rob Ray on color again the rest of the season, that's bad. Jim Lorentz is still the absolute goat of color commentary in Buffalo hockey.
Sorry, he would always hit that like during a big goal.
If there's one thing that this season has done for me, and not to completely sidetrack this conversation about the forward, the trade, and the recent wins, is they've brought back all of these guys to do a period of commentary with RJ, and every single time I'm like, wow, they really are 20 available guys who are all better than Rob Ray at color commentary, and none of them are currently calling this game. Larry Playfair was good. Lorenz is good. Everyone they've brought in
Marty
has
Baron's
been great.
been great.
Marty is amazing. I love Marty. And just, nope, Rob Ray down there between the benches talking about grit.
I'll always think about Playfair and Lorenz. Apparently, were both in the booth the night of Dave Hannon's goal, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm 99% sure they were both in there. But it got to be like through the second overtime or something, and Larry Playfair tells the story, and apparently they went to a commercial break or the period ended, and RJ was like, "What the hell are you guys doing?" And they're like, "What?" He's like, "You're not talking." They were so enamored listening to RJ call the game that they weren't providing any color. So RJ was talking the entire time, and there were no commercials in overtime. So it was literally 20 minutes straight of hockey. For television purposes, there were no breaks. RJ's like, "What are you guys doing?" And they were like, "We're just listening to you call this game, and we have nothing to say."
Even RJ isn't RJ anymore. RJ's checked out. You can hear it.
He's still good.
He's
though.
still good, but
like
he's
when Eichel scored on that penalty shot, he was good.
He has his moments, but you can tell he's checked out.
He's been doing it for so long that it's that's probably partially it.
You can't tell me he's not
seen
burnt
it all.
out too.
Well, that's kind of what I mean. Like, yeah.
He's been doing it for so long, and the team's been so bad for so
He's old,
long.
man. He's
We
pretty
talked
old
a little
now.
bit off air before about the Tim Murray era of the Buffalo Sabres. And you think about when RJ was having his cancer treatments, and you wondered if he was ever going to call back and call games, and then Jack Eichel gets drafted, and they start building this team, and RJ's, after all, he's like, you know what? I'm still in. And he comes back for this team with O'Reilly and Kane and Jack and Reinhart. They traded a first for Robin Leonard. They got Bogosian. They got all these pieces here.
Which at the time looked like it
It could be
should have been
the
solid.
beginning of something. And he came back. I bet you he thought he was getting at least one more playoff run out of that team. And I bet you he still loves doing it, but I bet you deep down inside he's a little disappointed that he is still wondering if he'll ever get to call a playoff game before he has to hang it up. And it makes me sad because RJ is the best hockey commentator I've ever heard. And that's not just at home. Okay, it's a little bit of hometown bias. But you listen to some of these other guys, you watch out-of-town broadcasts, you watch the NBC broadcasts. Nothing makes me, in that period of RJ and Jim Lorentz calling hockey 90s afternoon, 90s day on Saturday, it was like my childhood again. It's like, wow, it's incredible to watch these two guys. They still sounded great together. They still played off each other well. Lorenz looked like he never missed a step. Or sounded like he never missed a step, I should say. Man, I hope that RJ gets to call a playoff series. I hope it's this year. I hope that the momentum that they're trying to build, I hope something comes of it. And maybe if they can figure something out here these next couple of weeks without Olofsson and Skinner, maybe they can make something happen when those guys come back.
Maybe if they'd stop filling the hospital wing with every good player on
it's
offense.
not ideal. Not great. But maybe Jack Eichel's going to drag this team kicking and screaming to contention, and they've got to find a way to fill out the rest of the lineup.
They're all broken.
So they'd rather make a trade. They trade the best statistical defender for Michael Frolik.
Rest in peace, Marco Scandella. We hardly knew you.
It's a salary for salary trade, essentially. I would much rather would have had them like bring in Jason Pominville for $1.5 million for 40 games.
I love watching Palmer's stats in the beer league he's playing in. He's just straight up just mossing dudes. He's putting up 10 points a night playing.
That means
local
one
beer
thing to
league.
me. He's got 39 goals now. You know, his confidence is sky high. Get him in here.
This Jason Pominville guy,
lighting these
does he
dusters
know
up.
how to play hockey?
If you're telling me that you need a guy to fill the Victor Olofsson spot on the power play, give me Palmer or Vanek on a
My
small
thing
deal.
is I know Pominville can play with Eichel. He's putting up points with. He was scoring goals with Jack and Skinner last year.
Last year at what, 35, 36 years old?
12 months ago, we were at the afternoon game for his 1,000th game. It was in January, I think,
Yeah,
and that
he
was
was
when they
at
won like
Hattie.
9-2. He had
Yeah.
like 5 points.
It's
That was a fun game.
You know that he can play with Jack. He's in town. He's from what I hear. He's at Northland Center all the time skating
He's
every day,
hangry.
all day.
He's
skating
hangry.
with the Buttes. From what I hear all the time.
Yes.
He's skating in his bar league. He's skating with kids. Apparently, he's at Northland Center
He
all
basically
day, every
lives
day,
there.
just skating.
Sounds like he doesn't
See,
care as
wait-
long as he's out on the ice.
He's waiting for contract.
What do you think happens first? The Sabres play Jason Pominville at forward, or we get into a Ryan Vince situation? They play Jason Pominville at goaltender.
He's in the building. He's
Like, hey, Jason, you own pads, right? Somewhere in your house. You wanna you want to get a banner someday for
I'd
being
feel
the only
more
forward to play 1,000 games at
confident.
forward and one goalie?
We're then bringing in like a Pominville for $1.5 million for the rest of the season. Bring in Vanek. It sounds like nostalgia, but these are the best two guys out there in terms of free agents right now.
I don't hate the Fro League trade in concept because they must think
You're not
that-
allowed to hate it, Jeff.
Yeah, I know. I love forwards.
You
Thank
got
God
a
they got a
forward.
forward. Thank the Lord. They moved a defenseman and brought in a forward. I am legally obligated by my months of protest to like this trade. And in concept, I don't mind it because they must think that they can get something out of him still. There was a point in his career when he was a 20-goal scorer. Those days maybe a little more behind us than we would like for a guy that we just brought in. But maybe they think that they can fix him. Maybe they think that he's a middle six guy. I'm tired death of middle six guys, but they need bodies at this point because it's 6 to 8 weeks for Olofsson, which isn't great, and another 2 to 3 weeks for Skinner on top of that. And Jack Eichel, as much as he has been carrying this team literally and figuratively and literally carrying Oilers defenders in overtime to draw that penalty, he just dragged that guy around the ice like I've never seen a guy just get shouldered and carried into a zone like that. Jack I don't know if he's put on any weight or if he's just skating with more confidence, but he looks like he is just bullying guys this year. But unfortunately, he can't clone himself, so they do need other forwards to be on the ice and give him a chance to sit on the bench.
Well, we
Well,
can't
and we
have
did-
tell Jack Eichels.
We do joke all the time, and the Amerks the other night dressed 8D. Remember I said put in the Slack chat? The Amerks had to dress 8D due to an injury. And the
Jason Botterill somewhere, his desk started tilting up. He's like, I can do that.
His desk started tilting up. What do you mean?
He got an erection. This has been Sabres Talk After Dark, brought to you by the network.
Speaking of Rochester, Case Middlestat.
I'm really glad you said speaking about Rochester and not speaking about erections. I was really worried where that was going.
I can go there. Middlestat's finding his inner Middlestat.
Yeah, he scored a couple of beauties down there. So he had 1 assist through 3 games. And now he has goals in back-to-back games, and they are pretty sexy.
Yeah, that
goals.
one yesterday was real nice.
Yeah.
He's playing fast. That's the important thing. He's just playing fast. There's between being fast and playing fast. He's playing. You see, he's kind of catching confidence, but they're getting the puck more on his stick, which one of the main goals was to get him down there, get the puck on his stick more.
Do you remember him in Minnesota? He'd get the puck over the blue line. He'd skate behind the net, come out front, wheel through the face-off circle, go back behind the net, come back, go to the half wall, go to the slot, and score. Because no one could take the puck off his stick in the offensive zone. You saw shimmers of it in the World Juniors, right? When he would take the puck at center ice and just nobody stopped him, and the puck's in the back of the net. So I don't know. I hope he finds that. I'm not saying you ever was going to do that in the NHL because it's not easy to just undress people all the time. But you see almost none of it. Like you don't see glimpses of it anymore with him. Like
Yeah.
Justin and I have always been Team Casey, and it's just not this year. I don't know how you defend him because it just hasn't been there.
Well, hopefully going to the Jason Botterill school if they want these guys to just stew in the AHL.
Yeah, they might have broke him a little bit.
Yeah.
The guy was in
that
high
was a
school
pre-Botterill decision to
The
bring
guy
him
was in
right
high school
away.
in June,
Yeah.
and playing with the Sabres in October.
Yeah. And I don't think, and I think he's still savable. I think there's a lot of talent there. maybe just letting him go down to Rochester, let him be a top line guy. Maybe that's all he needs. He just needs to go down there, catch some confidence, like you said, and
hopefully him and Tage both, right? I mean, Tage obviously came in one game and just like everyone else is broken.
Well,
but
Well, Olson's 24 years old. He's been down in Rochester a while, and he came in and he's been ready to go since he came up.
At this point, I would just call him back up here. They need the players so bad right now.
Yeah, you just need bodies.
Put up him and
forward bodies.
CJ Smith, my favorite player, is back from injury. Bring them both up here. Like, they need scoring so bad. I don't care about them going out grinding out down low. Like, they do Lazar and Jurgensen and Larson for that. Bring up Smith.
And noted goal scorer Curtis Lazar got another one the other day. He's having a career year.
He hasn't had a bad game as a Sabre.
No, he should have been up here at the start of the season.
Yeah,
I agree.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying he's been great every game. I said he hasn't had a bad game as a Sabre.
He hasn't cost them anything at any point, I don't think, no. He's also not putting those top line minutes that he could cost them a game, maybe. But it's in case of knowing you're rolling coaching a guy well.
Yep.
We were talking before, too, about you wonder where some of these previous teams would have been with Ralph Kruger. I think Kruger's done a really good job with this group of people, making the most out of making chicken salad out of chicken shit at a lot of points here. Speaking of guys that I'm really excited to see play with the Sabres soon, Dylan Cousins is looking really good.
Fist pumping right now.
Man, he looked good in the World Juniors or whatever that was. Holy crap.
He's going to be in the team next year. He's got to be. He's got to be.
I bet you he's in Rochester first.
I think so. I would take. I would agree with Jeff.
I think you made a case for him to be in the team this year. That we did.
Don't disagree with him.
I did. But I think that the reason the jury is still out, let him get his 9 games this year. You know he's going to play 9, right? He'll play
this year.
He'll play the year.
Probably close to the end of the year, yeah.
Yeah, why not? You have nothing to lose letting him play his 9 because it doesn't burn anything from his ELC.
Mm-hmm.
So Tyler Myers played his 9, and if you remember, staying in a hotel. And after the 9th game, Lindy said, "You better find an apartment, kid, because you're staying." Yep. And then with Samson, he played his 9, the first 9 of his NHL career, and they said, "See ya." Then back to juniors he went.
Yeah, there's no harm, no foul with that. I hope they do give him that chance later in the year. I almost would have liked to have seen it at the beginning of the year, but he was coming off that injury. He's been playing really well at Lethbridge. He played really well in juniors.
Give him this World Junior Classic to tune himself up again.
I do think at the end of the year would be for him is a better choice, just because we didn't know what this team was going to be this year. We kind of thought in this room that if they were lucky enough to make the playoffs. I mean, if they were lucky, they were going to make the playoffs, but we're probably going to be just short. So why not give him the 9 games at the end of the season? So that way it's kind of a look forward into seeing what he could bring to the team next season.
Right. 100%. And with these kids, it's just more time. Like, it's always about, they always, I don't think more time is ever going to hurt them as far as development goes. It's never going to hurt a kid to continue to score 100 points, like in any league. Of course, at some point they're going to be champing at the bit to get in the NHL, but it's at an 18-year-old kid, you saying, you know what, let's take a year and have it's never going to hurt. He's not going to come back a worse player to training camp next year because they sent him back to Lethbridge this year. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
And if we're right, Jeff, and they send him to Rochester for the first 3 months of the season next year, that's not going to make him a worse player. It's really not.
I mean, as long as this is the same leadership group that's in place moving forward, I mean, Botterill has always been a guy who wants those guys to play minor league hockey, come up together with other guys down there. And I bet you, unless Cousins plays early next season and he is just tearing it up, he will play in Rochester for at least a month or 2 next year. Could be wrong. He could just come in here and be so good they couldn't send him camp
down. And he's your second line center that you've been looking for since O'Reilly.
That's the hindsight on the whole Tim Murray era with that team that he built. It really feels like, I think Mike, you said it felt like it should have worked. It just, for whatever reason, it just didn't quite gel, and then they moved on from Murray after 3 years, and here we are trying to build another group and lacking. I feel like we're missing way more in this group than we were ever missing in the Murray lineup. However, this group is finding themselves still in playoff contention, still just a handful of points away, and with one of the best players in the NHL leading the charge, it's hard to really say that the Sabres couldn't find a way to do it this year.
Have to say the Murray group maybe had more individual talent. I'd say this unit is probably more than the sum of their parts because they're more cohesive than Murray teams.
More cohesive, maybe much better coached. I think Ralph Kruger deserves a lot of credit.
So it's not necessarily individual talent where they're better, but it's overall all around that they work better together.
That's one's name wrong on that.
Can we talk about the Panthers for a second? No. So the Sabres, you have the lineup up against the Panthers, but so the Panthers game on Saturday, the last game they played, Sabres scored 3 early on Sergei Bobrovsky. 3 goals on 7 shots.
You're off the force, Bobrovsky. Turn your badging gun.
So, apparently after the game, if you guys didn't hear, Bobrovsky said he was upset to be pulled, but he respects the coach's decision, and he didn't think things would be as difficult as they have been so far this year. Sergei Bobrovsky has been awful. At least they didn't pay him $70 million.
Yeah, you hate to see that.
But in addition to that, if anybody tracks this, Florida picked somewhere in the middle of the first round.
They took a goalie.
They took a goaltender, a very highly touted USA goaltender who is like decorated. Why?
Like a slam dunk of a goalie prospect that has existed in years.
Because if you wanted to sign Bob for 2 years, $20 million, fine, because like you're going to need that time for that kid to marinate. Let's get some short up veteran goaltender.
Yeah.
No, they signed him to 7 years, $10 million a year.
Knight's going to come up and get his 9 games
dude
next
is
year.
a bum. Like, he's not good.
The other guy who went in for them played pretty well, too.
Ranger played really well. Better than Montebo was playing for them.
He's a Russian guy that came in and got paid. He's got his money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Bobrovsky really cares. He's like, oh no, I'm playing badly.
How
Here's
much
my
of
$10 million check.
how much of NHL contracts are guaranteed again? All of it. That's right. All of it.
Why don't I'm just going to tweet at Rick DiPietro and ask him how much of his contract, or Ilya Kovalchuk, or
Cody Hodgson.
It's not Hodgson's fault.
He's still getting
Hodgson
paid.
is Hodgson's illness being a different situation, but Chris Pronger.
Yeah, but he
has to.
stunk.
Yeah,
he stunk.
That's a different argument.
With a hard K.
Stunk.
He stunk.
Yeah.
But he didn't drink.
Very hard K.
Did not drink. The anti-Derek Roy.
And he had a thicker blade than usual. That's the big thing about it. I was talking about his stick. This is the first time I've seen a lineup for Saturday. I had a very busy weekend. I didn't get to watch the game.
It was good. They played
It's a
well.
fun game.
But the lineup is Rasmus Asplund playing the first time. Eichel's funny.
Man,
But
it
he
worked.
really didn't. Like, he did, but he didn't. They definitely, like, shuffled a little bit. But it was good.
Johansson
played
is
well.
great.
Johansson played like his hair was on fire.
Yeah. It's an entirely different team when he's in the lineup. When he's not in the lineup, you might as well just throw this entire team in the trash.
That first 2-on-1, he needed to shoot that puck. Because he looked to Sherry, which worked later, right? They did score the 2-on-1 goal. He looked to Sherry, and he held that puck so long that he passed it into Bob's pads.
Yeah.
Like, just wire it for the net.
It's one of those, you have to make the decision. You have to make decision 1 or decision 2. You can't wait. He waited, by that point, either decision would have been wrong.
He made no decision correct, and that burned him. But, you know, he gets the big assist on the Sherry 2-on-1 layup goal, which was good to see, especially because I had just taken to Twitter to bitch about how they could never score on an odd man rush.
We would talk about Dahlin having kind of a down year.
Yeah.
He's got 22 points, 35 games. It's pretty good, I feel like.
Yeah, those power
year.
play points really help that, though, I feel.
And he also, I believe, had
Point to
something
point.
like 15 points in the first 10 games. So if that's the case, he has cooled off a little bit. But he's not.
back at the power play was
since
cooking.
coming back from injury, I think he's been much better.
I do think so, yeah.
That time away, whatever.
He had
it
a lot
was.
of bad defensive plays in the beginning part of the
Maybe
season.
we could thank Cernak for knocking some sense into him.
Well,
whatever you want to look at.
We could thank Dalton Smith for making Cernak learn how to fight, so the next time someone gets hit by him, that he knows what to do to defend himself.
Yep.
So there are 3 games before we're back in this room recording a show. St. Louis on Thursday,
Yikes.
at St. Louis, home against Vancouver, and then back to Detroit.
The Detroit Red Wings might be the worst hockey team I have seen in my entire life.
Have you seen the
They
Sabres?
are, yeah. And if you look at the standings and you keep scrolling, you're like, oh, I wonder how far behind the second to last place team the Red Wings are. The answer is by a fucking lot. They are really, really bad.
Yeah.
Where is it there? They are currently.
You were there.
Yeah,
You
hold
were
on.
there.
No, we're going to do the whole league. The Detroit Red Wings in last place here by a solid 13 points behind New Jersey, and New Jersey has a game in hand.
2 games.
Two games.
Well, that's the real difference maker here.
And
That's
fired
the
the
real
coach.
problem.
And New Jersey fired their coach. They're somehow that much worse than Ottawa, who is, I'm sure, their owner Eugene Melnick is somewhere trying to scam somebody for something. The King, Detroit is terrible. They are the worst team. They are worse than the Sabres tank team. They are worse than the Coyotes tank team. They are terrible, which means the Sabres are going to win against Vancouver and St. Louis and somehow lose to the Red Wings.
Sounds right.
So let it be written. So let it be done. And don't get me wrong, I'll take 4
We've
points
seen
in the
this
next 3
time and
games.
time
but
again.
They're gonna have a big game against Vancouver, and they're gonna have that letdown. All right, Justin, you should get that off the screen. Get that off the screen.
Why?
Just trust me. Let's play a fun game here. Our new favorite segment: name the 5 top scorers of the Detroit Red Wings.
Well, I just saw.
I saw 2, but I would have guessed them anyway. Dylan Larkin,
Yeah.
Tyler Bertuzzi.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody else.
But you have to know the answer.
Anthony-
I don't know the answer.
Anthony
I have to?
Mantha.
Yeah,
Anthony Mantha.
I believe so.
Andreas Athanasiou.
It's certainly possible. And I believe by default, Robbie Fabry, who I think scored a lot of those points before he was traded from St. Louis to Detroit, would also be up there. Justin, if you want to put that back up. This has been our great segment sponsored by whoever made this air horn. Push button.
Don't
Falcon
push the
Signal. I'm not going to push the button. We did that once in here. Falcon Signal Horns push button. Air horns. Your proud sponsor of Name the Detroit Red Wings top 5 scores.
Let's go back to the scores.
Yeah, let's go back and see if we actually got them all. Bertuzzi, Larkin, Mantha. Oh boy, Athanasiou, and some guy named Philip Horonek. Fabry is 6th.
Hronek.
Hronek?
You know Hronek.
I have two of these guys
Do
on
I?
my fantasy
Yeah.
team.
Oh, that's right. We play in that deep league. Man, this is. I do appreciate Tyler Bertuzzi's honesty about, like, I realize that he said something along the lines of, I realize that basically someone from every team has to go to the All-Star game, but I feel like I don't deserve it because he's got 31 points. He's a -11, and the Red Wings are terrible.
Just send Larkin.
Bertuzzi?
They just send
Oh,
Larkin.
was it Larkin?
Or do they should send?
They should send Larkin. They should send whoever their goalie is. He's doing a great job of getting them Lafreniere. So, this team.
What an old line. These guys were all good like a decade ago.
Trevor Daley. Advocate. I didn't even know Advocator was still in the league.
Trevor Daley, he's still playing.
Yep.
Alex Biega.
They
He
have
was like a
Jonathan Erickson.
He played on the Vancouver Cup team, did he not? Against the Bruins?
That sounds right.
Brian Lashoff. He's still around. Oh my gosh.
Valtteri Filppula is up there
DeKaiser
too.
still playing.
Mike Green. He's alive.
He's yeah.
He was their power play 1
Glenn
defenseman.
Benning.
And as always, when you're tanking, they have a nice stud young defenseman named Dennis Cholowski, and they keep sending him down to the minors.
Yup.
Because he's pretty good. He's not great, but he's pretty good. And they're like, nah.
I mean, they're gonna have the number 1 pick locked up about 20 games left in the season, so he'll get some chance to play late in the year.
It's a tank roster.
That is built to fail. So shout out to the Detroit Red Wings, who by the time we record will have somehow beat the Sabres 2-1.
And there's not even a bright spot. Like there's not even a bright spot.
Larkin's good. Come on. Dylan Larkin is really good.
Yeah, but he's one of those guys who is a creator, and if there's no one around him to create
He's not
with,
a franchise player though.
He's good.
no, he's not a franchise player. He's a top line guy. He just needs guys around him to create, and they got rid of Thomas Tatar, and everyone else is terrible. So Athanasiou has a great name, but is not guy's a franchise changer. Robbie Fabry was jettisoned by a cup-winning team, and he's their 6th leading scorer. Yikes! So we'll see how Frolik does in his new tenure here in Buffalo. He'll get a chance to play really soon. We haven't seen him on the ice in a Sabres jersey yet in actual game action, so I'm excited to see what he does.
Some visa issues, getting his working papers tied over from Canada to the States.
I read they're hoping to have him ready by Monday.
Do you remember when Casey DeSmith couldn't go to a game because he lost his passport?
Yeah, that happened just this past weekend. They were going to leave they had a back-to-back, a road home back-to-back, with the latter game being a home 5 o'clock game. So they were going to keep Tristan Jerry in Pittsburgh. Be like, here, take the day off.
Yep.
We'll call up DeSmith. We'll
play tomorrow.
Go to Canada, and then DeSmith couldn't find his passport, and they had to call the other guy
Yeah,
up.
some his name's like Emil Eliardis from the water pool ice picks or something
They're like,
ridiculous.
No,
It was like the water pool water wagons goaltender.
this is basically the equivalent of calling up Ryan Vins. And we've had a chance to work with Ryan Vins at the at Canisius and with the Buffalo Buttes. And I feel confident that Ryan Vins would have been able to beat this guy.
Foster.
Scott Foster. Hey, Scott Foster is a legend
my
now.
favorite sports
Scott
stories
Foster, the
ever.
man, the myth, the legend.
One of my favorite sports stories
That's
ever.
so cool.
I can still hear the commentators say Foster. He's robbing like Patrick Laine out there. Like
That guy never bought himself a beer amongst his friends for the rest of his life.
in the
So you guys remember
morning,
time I
he
robbed
was like
Patrick
using his
Laine?
adding machine at his accounting desk, and then he's like, "Hey, maybe I'll go play some hockey tonight."
Just picture that you work in an office with this guy. You're like, well, is Scott leaving early today? He's going to play. He's going to play hockey. All right, bud.
Right. Yep.
Go home, turn on your TV, crack your beer. Is that fucking Scott Foster? What the fuck? So shout out to Scott Foster. Justin, you pulled up the league leaders and stats. Did you pull it up for any reason other than just seeing how good Jack Eichel is?
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Okay, cool. Jack Eichel's great. McDavid and Draisaitl number 1 and number 2, and that team is still finding a way to maybe not make the playoffs. You love to see it. McKinnon's really
Well, outside
good.
of those two, how much do you really have?
I've heard Zach Cassian's still around.
He's good.
Plays hockey.
He is good.
Okay, so outside of those three, how much do you really have?
Ryan Nugent Hopkins, James Neal, who's revived his career.
real deal.
I'm thinking more along the line of the back end.
Clefbaum,
Well, that's a problem.
Darnell Nurse, Ethan Bear.
They have the
I'm
best
grasping
defensive
now.
name group maybe in the
Mike
NHL.
Smith is trash. Mikko Koskinen is not good.
Yeah, goaltending and defense and like their bottom six forwards are pretty bad. But other than that, they might make the playoffs.
Other than those like 12 really not good players,
Other than
great.
those 2/3 of their hockey team, they might be something. This comes down again, and this is going to be true, I feel like, for the entire season. If Jack Eichel's playing well and they get some support from secondary scoring, whether it doesn't matter who. It's Sheary, it's Larson, it's whoever. If someone else other than Jack is scoring and Jack is playing well, Sabres are really tough to beat.
Can I say how excited I am? It sounds so like cheesy that it's going to get. They're going to get basically this injection of talent back into their lineup that I think might come at just the right times. Like all of a sudden, you're not getting back Johan Larsson from injury, who is good. I'll admit, Johan Larsson is good. Not just this year; he's a good player. There it is.
It's a Johan Larsson Truther podcast.
Said it.
You are getting back. Think about if
Tage Thompson,
Casey Middlestat, Jeff Skinner, Victor Olofsson, all of a sudden, like these guys start rolling back into your lineup, and if you muddle near the playoff picture, you can't tell me that doesn't inspire the team. You can't tell me that like
they need to win every other game for the next
hold
5
the
to
line.
6 weeks.
Hold the line, and then when they get healthy again,
I have two thoughts. One is a concern. One is something that I'm intrigued about. My concern is that I hope the power play doesn't suffer too much without Olofsson over there, because even when he wasn't scoring, he has been.
Maybe they'll simplify it.
Maybe they will. Maybe they'll just go with the full Alex Ovechkin. We'll just spend the entire time teeing up Jack Eichel from his office. I don't hate it. The other thought is, without Olofsson, do they finally, when Skinner comes back, does he finally get to play with Jack for a little bit?
I hope he does anyway. I think they might have been leaning that way either way. I think they would have been leaning that way either way, and I think the day that they would have pulled the trigger on putting him up top, because it was when he was playing really well, just not finishing, was the game he got hurt. So, I don't know.
Because now he's got to justify that contract. Anyways, I've been informed by Mike Harrington on the Twitter.com that he's being overpaid because he hasn't got enough points. So.
Yeah. If he plays with Johansson and Sheary the way they've been playing, I would not be mad, though, because I think that he could produce there.
I think if you're getting enough from a top line that doesn't have him on it, the problem is they haven't been getting a lot from the non-Jack Eichel members of the top line. But I guess if Jack's able to carry a line by himself and Johansson and Skinner and Sheary are out there carving people up too, the hope is that you have that second line because they haven't really had it. So maybe they will finally get something from it.
Michael Frolik, Marcus Johansson, Connor Sheary. Book it. I'm kidding.
It's probably going to happen at some point.
I mean, that's going to be their path to success. This team's path to success is now founded on.
I mean, if this was the Buffalo Bills, think back to a few years ago, like, who the hell is Jordan Poyer? Who the hell is...
Mm-hmm. Who the hell is Danny Briere?
Who is Danielle Briere? Why did we trade Kelvin Shepard for Jerry Hughes?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just the right guy in the right situation.
Wasn't Lorenzo Alexander like 320 pounds?
He was a special teamer.
And he was like over 300 pounds.
At one point, he was an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, a linebacker, special teams player. He's been almost everything.
So the Sabres schedule for the rest of the month isn't super crazy.
4 days off in a row for the only time since the Sweden trip.
They've got St. Louis
so far.
The toughest game is
They
St.
still
Louis.
got the bye coming up too.
The toughest game is St. Louis, Vegas, and Dallas. Then
I'm not scared of Dallas
Dallas
at all.
isn't good.
Vancouver is hit or miss.
Nashville just fired their coach. Sorry,
Nashville is not the same Nashville as it used to be.
They just fired Laviolette today.
Mm-hmm.
So you could stay the course, and you get the bye week. That's a huge time for a bye week for the team to get healthy.
And depending on what part of the Jeff Skinner injury timeline he's at, he could be coming back right after that bye week. So that'd be real nice.
Mm-hmm. And then I think when Tage went out, he was down for 5 to 6 weeks too, right? Or was it 4 to 6 months?
It feels like it's been 84 years.
What was it? I forget that there was a months or weeks for Tage. I don't remember.
I feel like it was a month.
It's too long.
I feel like it was months.
Yeah,
too long. The dude played 4 shifts and got hurt. I was at the game. He played well.
I'm excited to get him back.
Me too.
3 to 5 weeks when he got hurt. That was back on November 18th.
So which means he should be back.
He should be back already. What happened? All right, we need to figure this out.
Well, if you math,
November 18th. So 1 week, 2 weeks.
That would put him coming back at the end of December.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's the beginning of...
so we're already at least a week behind.
He should be coming back soon.
Maybe 3 to 5 weeks, 7 to 8 weeks. It's all really the same thing.
Time is a construct.
Which
Here
that's
in the
also
year
November.
2020.
That article is from November, so who knows if it's been changed.
Yeah, there's no updates on RotoWire from after that November, so no one knows. Just no one's asking.
He's in a cryogenic
Tage Thompson
chamber
has actually
somewhere.
been there every game, and no one has asked him to come play yet. He's getting picked last in the pregame scrimmage every time. His stick gets thrown last.
Tage Townsend coming back is a huge help to the offense right now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing him up there with Jack instead of Asplund.
I mean, the few shifts I saw him play, he looked good. But then literally he went into the corner. And
he's got one of the best shots in the system.
Yep.
He's got a crazy good wrist shot. And he gets time for a slapper. He rips that thing. He's got a super good shot. I'm not saying it's Olofsson good, but he's got a very good shot. But yeah, I like your points about ever coming back at the same time and everything.
Even if it's not all at the same time, you're going to all of a sudden start rolling in with like this injection. Like at the trade deadline, all of a sudden the Sabres is going to feel like they acquired 3 new forwards that can score, and it's their own players. It's like when I work and I get a reimbursement check. Like it's, I spent $300 on an event.
Getting your tax refund.
You get my own money back, and it's like, yeah. And in this case, it's going to be like,
it's kind of what I want to make a trade. I said it in the last show. Don't make a trade. Stay the course because you're going to have better leverage in the offseason. Trade a salary. Someone will take. You got to take half that. You got to trade a defender. Just to get salary with the books and bring in some free agents. Like I said, it's better than making a stupid trade. They're in a good. I think they're not in a terrible spot. When you really think about it, all things considered, they're not in a terrible spot. I don't hate it.
But in the meantime, while they wait for these guys to come back, you've got to keep yourselves in contention. You've got to at least stay within striking distance.
Play boring hockey. Trap neutral zone.
I don't care how they look as long as they win. If they win games, I don't care if they win them 1-0 or 7-6. Just win hockey games.
2 points, 2 points, 2 points.
They don't ask you how, they ask you how many.
I don't care if it's boring to watch. I want to see them win.
Yeah.
It's fun to sit here and look at the standings again. I haven't done that in about 4 seasons.
2 points, 2 points.
Probably longer than that, actually.
And hopefully, I wonder if them not having a extended break for a while hurt them, and now maybe having a couple of breaks for guys to actually rest and get healthy. Steve was hiding out the candy bar on us the whole time.
I think we have candy to try.
While Steve does that and opens that, want to do a quick little. Mike mentioned it. I'm kind of sad to see Lorenzo Alexander leave. He was a good player. He was a guy who was kind of an afterthought in his entire career. Played a lot of different positions. Was a special teamer. Became a leader. And a true leader in the community, too. So shout out to Lorenzo Alexander on announcing his retirement officially after the game on Saturday, and wish him the best. And we will keep you updated on anything we see, as the Buffalo Bills will have to replace at least one starter moving into next season.
Yeah, not just a starter, but a leader in the locker room, too.
Which is that's almost harder to replace. Yeah. I love what they did for him in the last home game with having his daughter sing the anthem and everything. He wouldn't say that it was his last season, but I feel like everyone knew. And that was a really cool moment for him to let that happen with his.
You know what? That seems like him, though. I mean, these guys have to know how much, especially the ones that are loved in the community and respected. They have to know how much that they mean to the community. And he just seems like one of those selfless guys that just wanted to basically go out quietly.
He's still playing at a pretty high level, too, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's for him. He's not able to play as much. He was definitely taking more plays where he wasn't on the field. It's one of those, maybe he just getting worn down. He's because he played so much special teams, I feel like he played at a high level a little bit later in his career than some other guys would have, because he wasn't out there taking as many hits. But credit to him, and a long career, 15 years if I remember right, in the NFL for Lorenzo, and that's no small number these days.
Him and Kyle Williams. Let him get a few years retirement, enjoy the retirement, get him somewhere in that front office.
Look forward to seeing Lorenzo Alexander as the new co-host of the John Murphy Show starting this August. Calling my shot right now.
Those are the guys you want in or around your locker room, no matter what. At all times.
It's cool to see Kyle at practice too. And he's coaching them up. He's not just like, hey guys, with a coffee in his hand. He's on the field whacking them with pool noodles.
Steve, your moment.
So we just quickly mentioned the Buttes unfortunately dropped 2 in a row to Boston. Their 6th and 7th games against the Pride. The Pride just pump everybody. They're such a good team. But the Buttes, a 3-1 lead the last time they played. And unfortunately, that evaporated into a 4-3 overtime loss. On Sunday, they opened up a nice 2-0 lead early, and then unfortunately lost 7-2, never scoring again. Very sad.
That really sucks when the Boston team comes in here and scores a late touchdown. Hate to see it. I feel like I've heard that one before.
I just feel like Boston always has good teams. The Bruins, the Celtics, the Red Sox.
Maybe things are changing. The Celtics lost at the Wizards tonight. The Patriots are out of the playoffs, and the Pride will lose a game sometime between now and the heat death of the universe, probably. Maybe.
Well, the Pride did beat their record for most consecutive wins.
Well, going back to last year, regular season wins, they have like a bazillion, but I don't know.
They say the last time the Boston Pride were that unbeatable force, and they kept shoving Buffalo around for a full season, the Buttes won the Isabel Cup.
Correct.
So down but not out.
Correct.
And it is a little bit of a break before the Buttes play again at home, but
yeah, they're at Minnesota and then at the Riveters, I believe, and then they'll be home February 23rd and 24th. Anyways, I have our segment brought to us by our friends at Hello Sweets Candy and Pop Shop. They're located at 50 Main Street in Tonawanda, right near the Riviera Theater. Not right next door, but if you're at
In the same
Riviera,
vicinity,
you're
yeah.
in the vicinity of that.
Bless
So yeah, bless you, Mike.
Thank you.
I have Canadian Smarties.
Oh,
Now,
thank
for
God.
some of you, people will be like, "Oh, Smarties! I know what those are. Those are the little candy, wafers, like sweeter Necco wafers." These are not that. These are chocolate. And the best comparison, and Canadians will yell at you that it's like Canadian M&Ms. They're going to be like, "No, it's better." Blah blah blah. So your requirement, gentlemen, I've had these, and I'm going to just like the Mr. Big Bar. I'm not going to have any because I've had these. You must make sure at least one of the ones you have is orange.
There goes Justin's microphone. Or phone.
That someone just if you're listening and
That big audio drop.
Anyways.
My mic was muted.
perfect.
I still heard it in the background.
You have to take at least one orange.
Okay.
Because the orange are made with an ingredient that actually makes them taste a hint like orange chocolate. Now I don't like orange chocolate, but you'll taste it. So make sure at least one is orange. Dump some out. They're in a cardboard tube.
I'm excited because this is the first one that we've done for the segment that I have actually eaten before. But
So
I
you've had
enjoy them,
Smarties.
so I will continue to do this.
Yeah.
Yes, the other ones that we had done, and the soda and all that I hadn't done. You got an orange.
Yeah, make
Good
sure you
idea.
get an orange out of there.
Just get more of those pops in here.
Yeah, I will. I'm due for another trip to the store.
I gotta go with you. I gotta go. I live closest to it.
Yeah, so
I
go.
can walk outside, flick a book, or hit the front step, but I just
So
don't.
do it.
While everyone begins slowly.
So
eating
make
their
sure you
candy.
eat the orange one separate, because the orange one's the only one that tastes different. And I hate orange chocolate, so I'm not a fan. I mean, I'll eat them, but Justin
Not a lot
wants
of
to eat
orange
all
ones.
of them. Yeah, I'll take some now since you guys, ate them all.
They're not that much better than M&M's. Sorry, Canada.
Well, unpopular opinion for me is I don't think they're better than M&M's.
I think they're equivalent, basically.
No, not even close. This guy's thin.
Really?
I think they're less chocolate, more candy covered.
I don't hate it. The orange chocolate is a nice touch on the orange ones, though.
They're to me they're like fake imitation M&Ms.
Yeah, but they don't say on the box like featuring an orange chocolate twist. So I was talking to Jessica, who owns Hello Sweets, and she said there's something in the ingredient that they use to make it orange that flavors it that little bit of orange chocolate.
I like that.
It's not on purpose. I'm sure all things are on purpose, but they don't advertise.
They should
on the
consider
box.
selling an entirely orange pack of these.
Well,
The orange does taste different.
it does, right? It has a
Yeah.
little bit of hint to it.
Yeah.
So Jessica's daughters actually figured that out. She had 2 young kids, and her daughters were the ones that were like, the orange ones taste different. And Jessica and Tyler were like, "What are you talking about?" And then they tried them and agreed. And when I was talking
Yes,
to
the orange
Jessica
ones do
about
taste
it,
different.
she said it's something to do with the ingredient that they use to make the
You know what they
orange ones
taste like?
orange.
It tastes like sixlets,
Yes, you said this,
but they're too big to be as good as sixlets.
because I do like sixlets a lot.
They're not as good as sixlets, but they taste kind of like them.
I think the issue with these are candy coating to chocolate ratio.
Yeah, that is kind of a thick candy coating
Yep.
shell.
While we're in this end segment here, one more quick shout out. Canisius' Nick Hutchison, who had just became the 6th player in program history to become the 50-goal scorer. If you go on to the Canisius hockey social media, the Canisius Athletics play of the week came from him and fellow senior Matt Hoover on Saturday. They went to RIT. RIT is a really good program. They went to RIT and they played really well. They went to a shootout, tied at 1, and lost the game. Saturday night, they come back home and they go up 3-0 in the third period. They give up 2 power play goals. RIT pulls the goalie. RIT ties the game with a minute left at 3. And I think a lot of teams would have rolled over and played dead. But Hutchison and Hoover found a way. The top line went back on their next shift, created a crazy good goal. Hutchison gets his point. He got an empty net goal for his 51st career goal. He is now just 5 points away from 100 career points as a Golden Griffin, who was named Atlantic Hockey Player of the Month and very well deserved.
And there was someone calling that goal when you find the replay on
Big
Twitter.
if true.
And
You
it's a
can-
pretty good goal call on that one from our own Jeff Boyd.
thanks,
And
bud.
the other part was it was really cool to watch them celebrate that goal because you could tell how much it meant to them. I knew nothing of the scenario you just painted, but when they scored, you could see the elation on the team. So big goal for the Griffs.
It was funny too because with the fact that both campuses are on spring break and the fact there was a Bills game, it was not a really well attended game, and it was almost like 70% RIT fans who just traveled down from Rochester. They have a pretty good traveling contingent, so it was almost louder in the building outside of the goal horn. it was louder in the building when the Tigers scored than it was when Canisius scored. So it was almost like they went on the road and did that, which was a really cool feeling. And you could tell those are two guys who a lot of the season coach Trevor Large kept them on two separate lines. That wasn't really working. The offense was really struggling. They went Kane and Taves and put them back together, and now the offense is firing again. So credit to both of them. That was a great goal by Hoover, a great setup by Hutch. And Canisius, they're still really down in the standings, but I think they've won now 3 out of 4, and the other game was a shootout loss. They're coming around a little bit here. So hopefully there's more good hockey. Buffalo's college hockey team, they will not be home either for a bit. They have a couple road weeks here. They'll be back home on Friday, January 24th against those same RIT Tigers at Arbor Center.
So worth noting, for those of you listening still, an hour and a half in, that sitting in our room right now, we have a whole lot of hockey coverage, right? And so if you guys didn't realize, Mike does play-by-play for UB men's hockey. Jeff, along with Eric, does play-by-play and color for Canisius hockey. Justin and I are the voice of the Buffalo Beauts. So there's a whole lot of hockey going on.
And shout out to
room.
a friend of the podcast, Mike Mroziak, who, along with myself, does the Buffalo Junior Sabres.
Right,
He's been filling in on PA for some Beauts games. So if you've been there, I know Ryan Burgess is the known guy, but Mike's filled in for one full game, and he and Ryan kind of tag teamed the Winter Classic or the
Buffalo Believes Classic,
sponsored by Labatt. Big ups to Labatt for sponsoring that game. It's still super cool to me that they did that. So shout out to him because we do those just Junior Sabres games too. And if you're wondering, Bill season's over, it sucks. What do we do if you're a Sabres guy? When they take these long breaks, you know what you do? You go watch the Junior Sabres. The games are free at Harbor Center. You watch Buttes games. You watch Canisius games. You go to UB and watch them play at Northtown Center. There's so much good hockey around. We're really lucky to have an area like that.
We might have something coming out soon about that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, so keep an eye on our social media. A little birdie told me and then sent me a link to something that is being worked on. So keep an eye out for the little guide to Buffalo sports viewing that is being worked on here, mainly by Mike. I know he's taking charge of it, but that'll be assembled and put together soon here. Not to spoil too much of what he's working on, but
keep an eye out for some more Bandits coverage. We got just some cool stuff with the Bandits coming up here soon.
Yeah, we
Saturday the 18th.
We got some cool stuff with the Buttes we're working on. It's a work in progress.
Go watch the videos that Justin and Steve did with Taylor, Chris,
Mike
and
was
Sarah
there too,
Bustad. They're
filming,
amazing.
Yeah, they were awesome. They were hilarious.
Props to Mike's phone for being the best camera we
That's
got.
100% true.
I was saying, they don't look like they were shot on a phone. They look like they were shot with a real professional camera. So credit
Props
where
to
it's
the
due on
Google
that.
Pixel
Yep.
3,
2.
not even the good
yeah,
Pixel.
right.
Yeah, it's over a year and a half old now.
Nice.
Unreal.
Anything else before we wrap up here, guys? Is that about...
I think there's a lot, but we've been going for a long time.
I know. No one wants to listen to a 3-hour podcast. And
I listen to Joe Rogan all the time.
well, fair. No one except for Justin wants to listen to a 3-hour podcast.
Does Joe Rogan know he's doing a 3-hour podcast?
Time doesn't really move for that man. He is so incredibly high all the time.
Listen to a Joe Rogan podcast, and then I go right into a second one. So listen to 6 hours of podcast.
Yeah, I was about to say, and then your day's almost over.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Well, thank you all for listening here to our first podcast of the year 2020.
Can you mimic my opening? Mimic my opening.
Oh, God, that was like 2 hours ago.
Don't worry.
Justin, you did a great job. Steve, you did a great job. Mike, you did a great job. I was fine. Thank you all for being here and listening to this podcast. You can find this podcast and other podcasts like it at our Facebook 716 Sports Podcast, on Twitter at 716 Sport, singular, Sport Podcast. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever your favorite podcasts and that one podcast that you listen to the one time but you don't really like are found. We will be back here next week. We won't have probably a lot of Buffalo Bills to talk about, so get ready for, as Justin once deemed it, the Blacksmiths, the Buffalo Sabres podcast that this will become here. But we will also have Buffalo Beauts news. We'll have a look forward to the next Buffalo Bandits home game because they do have a road game here this weekend. They'll be back home for a big divisional tilt on the Saturday the 18th, so we'll have a chance to talk about that and look forward to that game against the Toronto Rock. Plus, whatever else we decide to do, because inevitably with these podcasts, we just kind of go off the rails and talk about everything. So
I got plans. We're gonna do some weird shit during
Excellent.
these.
Thank you all for enjoying our great new and assuredly recurring segment, Name the Top 5 Scorers on the Detroit Red Wings. We will look forward to bringing that back next week after the Red Wings beat the Sabres 2-1 on Sunday. We'll see you soon.